Hello and welcome everybody to Challengers Uprising Day 1. We're here on the AoE Twitch channel. I'm Grapes, joined here by Rooted. We got Evil Geniuses Prodigies taking on Area of Effect Esports in some Group A action. Rooted, it's the first day of Proving Grounds. How are you feeling, my man?
I'm so excited. Honestly, it's been a long time coming. We've had ourselves a nice little break off from the end of Proving Grounds. Just a couple of weeks, months, whatever it may have been ago. It's been too long regardless. We're back here now. We had some teaser OQs for this cup event. Obviously, AoE and EGP both making their way comfortably through there. Meeting now in this first Group A. Should be very exciting matchup to get us underway.
Yeah, we got AoE EGP alongside Revival and TSM here in Group A. Only two will make it over to the quarterfinals in the playoffs. And this is really different. First of all, I can't believe it's summer split already, Rude. But second of all, taking a look at these teams, this is a little bit of a different setup than we saw in Risen for the first tier 2 last year. Only half of the teams here, which means that every match is going to be competitive.
Exactly right. This is just a single round robin, so every game, as you mentioned, does matter. You need to take victories here if you want any sort of chance of going out. Obviously, you're allowed probably one loss, and then after that, you end up with two in that bracket. You're probably not going to make it through to the quarters. It's worth noting here that I think me and you, Gropes, we came to the consensus that this is probably the hardest team for either of AoE or EGP to be playing up against here. So this is the one where maybe we're expecting a loss for one of these top two teams. I think this is the expectation here that both of these squads probably make it out of groups.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's fair to say that whoever wins this game likely walks away with that first seed into the playoffs, Route. So both of these teams really want to get that top spot, want to get an easier road into the semifinals. Obviously not easy at all, but
No.
either way, these are some important teams that we have here. And there's a bit of a disparity. We got Evil Geniuses, one of the most storied organizations in esports history, going up against Area of Effect. And even though these teams have a different kind of level of age, Rude, EG actually lost to AoE sister team in the first OQ, so probably gonna look for a bit of revenge here in this series.
Yeah, all right. Like AoE obviously got themselves two teams through in the first day of Cup OQs, which is definitely very impressive for them. So with that being said, and obviously AoE Randoms, the sister team as you mentioned, knocking out EGP in the first day, sending them to that second day. That's the sort of I guess burden that EGP are going to bear. Can they take a game up against the sister team now? Definitely going to be a question that we need to see answered.
Yeah, and this is the AoE main lineup. As we said, we got Faisal up top, RBM, Darkwing, Sketchstreams, and Fizzy. We're on the other side of EGP. We got Surdy, Tomio, Aspect, Shoryu, and Skytech. And Rude, we were talking about some of the matchups individually before we got onto stream. And the big one here is in the jungle. We got RBM and Tomio, some of the top performers in the last split, going head on in the first game of the summer split.
Yeah, exactly right. This is Tomio has been staple, so has RBM from coming over from Zeus, and Tomio on EGP has been just a consistent mastermind in the jungle. I want to see how these two pair up against one another, with different pieces now around both of these junglers, obviously with a new bot lane on EGP side, with just the same base mid jungle duo in RBM with Darkwings as well. Going to be looking to see if they can facilitate some of that built-in synergy to maybe try and build up some advantages around pieces that maybe not quite so familiar with playing around. So that's definitely something to keep our eye on here, is if we get to see RBM play with Darkwings, or if we see a little bit of maybe adaptation from these guys, say diverse away from their pre-built synergy and maybe build it elsewhere.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing is just the amount of time that we've had away from these two players. First of all, Tomio, definitely, we haven't really seen him since they finished Proving Grounds in that 5-6 spot. But RBM even on Zeus, sure, he played maybe a couple of games in CeeLo, but it's been a while. And since then, the jungle meta has changed significantly, focusing more towards these ability power focused junglers. And we've seen a little bit of action from them both in the OQs, and AoE played a little bit in the Upsurge League. And there's been a lot of sort of adaptation, a lot of Udyr still in the meta, but then things like the Morgana, Nidalee, and Rumble also come into play.
Yeah, and you're quite right that we've got obviously these new things that are maybe catching junglers a little bit off guard. Notice, of course, that when we're looking toward these junglers in particular, going through it, RBM hasn't played too much Morgana, so maybe that's a champion that's missing. But I mean, Morgana in herself, somewhat straightforward. I don't want to, say that the champion's cookie cutter, very simple, whatever, but still gets away with maybe a little bit less playtime on the champion and still being able to used to relatively decent effect. I want to see if that does come through for either side, because I think jungle Morgana as a trade for the Udyr is something that we're probably going to end up seeing.
Yeah, and another thing that is both these junglers have in common as we head into the pro draft here is that they both are playing with new bot lanes here. We got Sketchstreams and Fizzy for AoE, and EGP coming out with Shoryu and Skytech, a bit of a deviation from their previous split.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a newish bot lane and two very different ends for EGP, it feels like here. Having themselves got Shoryu, who's came from Academy, a very high prestige sort of expectation coming on down through there. And then with Skytech in the support role, somewhat unproven coming on in that support role, there could be a very large disparity between not only the expected skill, but what these guys are able to achieve together. And it's going to be, I feel like, on Shoryu here to be able to coach, to guide Skytech into some sort of bot lane formality and try and tell him quite what he needs from his support coming down from that academy role.
Yeah, and already, as we see in the draft, a lot of focus towards that bot lane. We got Thresh Jinx taken off the table for AoE, and while for them, they don't want to see any of Shoryu's Varus. And so with Renekton, Gwen, and Rumble rounding out the rest of the band, EGP is going to lock in a very strong jungler in the Udyr for Tomio to start it off.
Could we have predicted it any better here? Udyr picked up in first pick there for Tomio, very staple pick. He's been playing this not only throughout the entire first split of Proving Grounds, but now that it's stayed somewhat relevant here, coming down from the MSI meta, sort of where we're seeing these picks funnel through from. I have to imagine that AoE opt into something along the lines of the Morgana. There's potential for something like the Olaf if you're feeling a little bit spicier, but as anticipated, it's going to be that jungle trade pick here. And now we get to see where AoE laid their chips. What do they want here? Things like Kai'Sa, like Tristana, most likely also tradable here for the teams if they want to try and get themselves some strong AD carries down there. Typically Tristana more versatile in the laning phase. Not only does she do better than Kai'Sa in that lane, but also has the ability to be flexed into the mid lane if you get to see something a little bit spicy like that. We know that Darkwing is not necessarily known for the Tristana, but also has a little bit of opportunity to go there instead. They pick up another very highly priced solo laner in the Lee Sin.
Yeah, and since we've been gone, Lee Sin has changed it a little bit. He's gone from a pick that normally goes into the arms of RBM to somebody that can flex into both solo lanes. And Faisal and Darkwing both have the potential to pick that one up. A very strong pick once again here for AoE in this first rotation. Mordekaiser's going to be hovered here on the other side of Evil Geniuses. I would not be too upset to see the Kai'Sa Tristana trade because Shoryu, one of the best Kaisas that we have here in the Proving Grounds. And while on the other side, Sketchstreams 10-1 on Tristana this year. So seeing this trade, I would definitely be super happy if that happened.
I think both teams getting themselves pretty much what they want then. Well, now with the set locked in there by EGP, obviously a bit of a flex pick, can very easily be pivoted into the mid or top lane, but also a slight chance that we see a little bit of aggression coming out down on that bot side. We know that Hex Flash is a beautiful summoner spell, also a beautiful rune choice that you can take. Burn that flash level 2, trade it with the enemy AD carry, enemy support, whoever it may be, and then you have that opportunity to find engages, find some fights very frequently. We are getting baited by the Draven Hover. It is of course going to be the Tristana here, so some very standard cookie cutter trades coming through right here at EGP, with the only real exception to being, hardcore meta being that set so far in the first round of picks. And we're going to be looking into the bans here with EGP. They've got themselves a bit of a mystery as to what they've picked up in terms of solo lanes, but obviously AoE, we're predicting it's going to be the same thing as solo laner and a AD carry and then a jungler. So getting rid of these bans could be a little bit difficult. We probably expect supports to be taken out though.
Yeah, Fizzy, a very strong Nautilus player. Silas also going to be taken off the table as Aspect has the potential to pick that one up as well. And yeah, we're not casting wild cards, so I don't think Draven will be coming through in this series. But either way, there's a lot of different flexibility that AoE have set up. Morgana even can flex to the bot lane. Lee Sin obviously can go to either solo lanes, Tristana, mid, or bot. And as we round out the bans here, we'll see which AoE want to do with their team composition. They're going to ban up the Akali, don't want Aspect on one of these AP melee jungler, mid laner, sorry, and they'll try to potentially go for a certain blind pick in the mid lane maybe.
Obviously, it depends where they want to lay their priority, right? You either save counter pick for mid lane or save counter pick for support here, and it really does go back to what we sort of imagine the team's styles to be here. I was just about to bring this one up here. Yeah. We've got with AoE, Skytech, not Skytech, excuse me, Fizzy, in an amateur, played 10 games of Alistair, won 9 of them. Played 4 games of Braum, lost all of them, and then played a 1 or 2 picks on everything else. So Alistair, by far and away, is at least the best win rate champion for Fizzy. So that's something that I'm definitely not surprised to see here. A very comfortable, stable pickup. You know, maybe sacrificing your laning phase a little bit, but for some sheer teamfight dominance here. What this means for AoE is that they've got themselves the ability to go into a potential Lee Sin flex here, you know, into the mid lane. If they see this matchup come through, that they want to take Lee Sin mid, they have the opportunity to do that. And with the Rakan locks in, we imagine that's going to be the support pairing down for the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, Rakan, another champion that has received a lot of attention against Evil Geniuses, has been banned 3 times in the 4 OQ games, and Orianna going to round out the composition aspect, going to pick up his most played champion of the spring split. And now, as you said, Rude, it's up to AoE. What do you want to do? Do you want to go for a top laner, send the Lee Sin over to Dark Wings, or let Faisal take that ninja into the top side?
Control Mage is probably something that they're looking toward here. Currently, AoE really don't have a lot of magic damage, relying solely on the Morgana to be getting away with that one. They could try and go for something a little bit different, though. That top laner, it is going to be the Wukong block.
Okay.
So, trying to take some spice into this matchup, trying to beat down that set early on, maybe trying to put a little bit more pressure, some more emphasis on that top side, relying on a little bit of a sustainable bot side with Tristana's all of that safety. Alistair as well, very adept at taking away ganks, so at the very least, saving their AD carry. So getting away with a strong top side here, AoE are going to be looking to put the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, this is really cool, seeing Wukong come out here for Faisal into the set, presumably for Surti. And yeah, Wukong, another really strong fighter, really goes alongside the rest of the team fighting composition that AoE have kind of put out. Just have to worry a little bit, though, about that physical damage. Pretty heavy in that regard set. Obviously, and Udyr have the potential to stack a decent amount of armor as you get towards the later stages of the game. So RBM is going to have a lot of pressure riding on his back to make sure that he's able to dish out enough damage to remain a threat throughout the game.
Yeah, I think that at some point, Lord Dominic's regard almost certainly going to need to come through. And if Tomio is able to get himself a little bit propelled on this Udyr, you know, getting himself an early game Dead Man's Plate could very well see a really difficult position for the Tristana to be put in. Obviously, tending toward Phantom Dancer as a second item, you then obviously want Infinity Edge as your third. And if you're not picking up LDR till 4th item, that either requires a ton of resources being put into you, or a very delayed Lord Dominic's, which is going to cost you in those team fights, trying to cut through this set, trying to cut through this Udyr. Because, you know, if you think about jumping onto the backline as Tristana, what are you jumping into here? You know, you've got full frontal dive from EGP outside of that Orianna, and you have to imagine that she's going to have a lot of protection here, you know, getting the Tristana into the backline. It's going to have to be coordinated. It's not going to be too easy.
Yeah, and a lot of pick potential also available here for AoE. The Morgana, Lee Sin, even the Wukong can jump out pretty far ahead of his team, come in with the Cyclone, and really disrupt a lot of stuff if a lot of the items start to come through. And so seeing this top position, definitely EGP has to be a little bit careful. They definitely have a lot of protection here, especially in things like the Orianna and the Rakan, but always just have to keep an eye out on one of those divers coming through.
And a bit of a gauntlet of fire here for sketch streams, right? We've not really touched on it, but something about this matchup in particular going to be the just the nature of these AD carries. We already touched on Shoryu coming down from Academy, but sketch streams somewhat a bit of an unfamiliar character to some people in the amateur scene. Did have an effort, tried to go through the tier 2s in the first split of 2021, was unsuccessful. It was with Faisal as well, so there is again a little bit of that inbuilt synergy there. But for sketch streams coming into this team, has been performing incredibly well on AoE so far, but coming up against, as we mentioned, that previously Academy AD carry could very well be a difficult matchup for him, and have to see quite how much he has improved since that tier 2 failure in the first split, and see if he's able to come back and succeed with a better sort of surrounding composition in the teammates.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually to take a look at the bot lanes for both of these teams. On EGP's side, you got Shoryu, a lot of Academy experience with Skytech, and then on the other side, you got Fizzy with the split of Academy under his belt, matching up against Sketchstreams. And Rude, the crazy thing, Sketchstreams and Skytech ended up playing together for, I think, Big League and Risen on a new Genesis / Conviction, whatever happened with that team. And seeing them both paired with an experienced veteran that has a lot of Academy games under their belts, it'll be interesting to see which one of the duo ends up taking home the dub today.
Exactly. Right. We so often see these things happen, even at the top end of LCS. So frequently, we'll just see AD carry partnership, AD carry botlet, and support partnerships split, and then the next split they'll randomly just be up against one another in the exact same 4 people down in the bot lane, just on 2 different teams, be it AD carries or T supports that do swap over. So it's nice to see that those things are funneling down as well to the amateur scene. But obviously, going into it here, playing the Tristana and the Alistair, Sketchstream's going to actually be on the weak side, which is something that we've not really seen from AoE too much. Obviously, if RBM's able to find a quick gank down onto that bot side, Kai'Sa and Rakan fairly immobile down there. They do obviously have the killer instinct and a potential grand exit for the Rakan to get out to safety, but those things fairly short distance, not too easy to get away from, especially pre-level 6.
Man, I'm just so excited for this game, Rude. We got EGP, AoE, game 1 of Challengers Uprising. We're going to take a quick break, head over into the spectator delay, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on Summoner's Rift. Hello, everybody. As we go through Summoner's Rift, it's the first time we're going to see these champions run through in the summer Proving Ground circuit. Dude, this is so exciting. We got EGP on our blue side, AoE on the red side, in one of the closest matchups, I think, that we're going to see in today's slate of games.
I think that we can go a bit further than that, Grapes, as well. I would not be surprised to see this be a semi-final matchup, see this be a finals matchup either in Cup. You know, come in a couple of days, couple of weeks when we get into the playoffs, I would definitely expect to see these two teams challenging the very top ends of the bracket. And this could be a little bit of a prelude to see who takes away not only the first seed going into the playoffs bracket, but potentially even further throughout the rest of seeding.
Yeah, definitely so. And I think the general consensus is there's kind of 5 main contenders for this tournament. And one of them, and 2 of them, sorry, are right here in this group. Probably one of the only groups that really has something like that. Yeah, it's super exciting. We're going to see both junglers start on their blue buffs. Morgana and Udyr, both champions that like to full clear. So I would expect to see a decent amount of that. Only difference is that Fizzy and Sketch Streams are going to help out RBM to start off.
So, you know, Udyr going leashless obviously doesn't give over too much information to AoE, and for the time being, it's going to be very apparent where RBM has started as opposed to where Tomio started. He's going to be a little bit more shrouded in terms of his early game pathing. So there's an opportunity potentially for this Udyr to get something spicy going down. We did see just a 5-point at level 1, so nobody really went for anything to try and get some scouting wards down necessarily. So there's obviously this opportunity right now for Udyr to get something going, as Sketch Streams does get knocked up, but Skytech goes in for a little bit of poke, does get the Guardian as well. So he's going to be having a nice little trade down on that bot side there.
And I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot more of that. Both of these bot lanes have super aggressive lanes. And Brood, there's an interesting choice here. Skytech does have the exhaust. Just given the amount of die potential that AoE has, I think that's a pretty valuable choice.
You're quite right. You know, staring down a Lee Sin, a Wukong, whatever it may be, all of those champions going to be trying to dive into the backline. And if they get access to the Orianna, if they get access to this Kai'Sa, they're going to be very vulnerable. And obviously, you don't want that to happen. Your job as the support is to keep your backline potentially alive here. And definitely in this instance, the Orianna going to need all the help that she can get from Rakan, from Exhaust, whatever it may be. And then on Fizzy's side, you can see taken the Ignite here. Maybe would have liked to see the Exhaust come through there as well. You know, with an Ignite, definitely expecting to potentially see some ganks from RBM, look to see if they can get a couple of kills down on that bot side, because come the late game, when you've got Kai'Sa jumping in on you, Set jumping in on you, you know, the very similar situation that Fizzy finds himself in as Skytech needing to exhaust some of those hyper carries. Ignite, much more built for laying, much more built for getting those kills, and if they can get them in the early game, you know, it facilitates AoE and it facilitates Sketch Streams, which is sort of the playstyle we've seen them adopt so far with this roster. So it's definitely going to be a case of if they can get away with some early game action down on the bot side, they will look to. But if not, I feel like the exhaust is just going to come in so much more useful in the late game.
Yeah, definitely. So Shoryu and Skytech getting the early advantage early and on in level 1. Obviously, Kai'Sa Rakan definitely beats out on especially Alistar level 1. And so now that they had a bit of a back, we allow Shoryu to get a bit of a reset, pick up a longsword refill pot, and just getting another cheater and just to try and keep that economy advantage up. He's going to be back just in time. We did see RBM walk over a ward while he went to go finish off the top side Scuttle Crab. So it was just a trade at the end of the day. Nothing too dicey happened. We are in NA after all, so the Scuttle Crabs have been a bit concerning for some of us. But yeah, it looks like none of that's going to happen. Pretty even footing as we head into the 4-minute mark.
Okay, so this is really important, actually. We're seeing some bot side pressure from RBM as he moves straight through the lane, actually avoids a ward on the Gromp. So looking at it, looking at where Tomio is trying to ping out, he already pinged that the Morgana should be at that Gromp. Finally shows up here, recognizing that there was nothing doing on that bot side. The potential for a bot lane gank was there, but obviously with the wave pushing in, decides against it. And as you touched on so rightly here, Grapes, the fact that Shoryu was able to find a cheater recall, is now back in lane with an entire wave of CS over Sketch Streams here. Going to be ahead on experience as well. They're going to be able to push in this wave very quickly. Expect to see Skytech there try and push that wave all the way under the turret. Up against an Alistar can be fairly daunting. They are going to need to do that together, but that is going to be CS experience and gold crucially missed there for Sketch Streams down on the bot side, based exclusively off of the 2v2.
Yeah, already a level down on Shoryu. And right now, taking a look at the general state of the lanes, it's about a 600 gold lead for EGP purely off of CS, and most of that is in those solo lanes, Rude. We got Sturdy up about 15 CS,
Predator
but it
gank.
looks like a little bit might have changed there. RBM with the Predator gonna go in. The binding has not been issued just yet, but it doesn't even matter.
Ooh.
The Q come in from Faisal will secure first blood for AoE.
Yeah, I mean, it's still of a game of chicken there for Serti on the top side. He can never throw Haymaker because it roots him and allows that Morgana bind to come through so easily. But if he doesn't flash, he's just going to die. Really well played from both Faisal and RBM there to get that kill on the top side. Not respecting the gank power of that Morgana. And honestly, it wasn't even the Morgana. It was also just the presence of a 2v1 that didn't allow Serti to turn that one back around. Double ward on that top side have now been cleared out. But now, obviously, already down that kill is going to put that gold lead right back to the lead that AoE will have wanted.
Yep, right back exactly so. And it looks like just that kill is the separator between these two teams right now. Things are so close on a knife's edge. We're going to see Tomio head towards the bot side. The grand entrance is going to land onto Sketchstream. And now that Fizzy goes in aggressively, might be a bit concerning for the AoE bot lane. Here comes Tomio. Does have the flash bear slap available. Is going to try to flash. Going to stun up Fizzy. The exhaust that we were talking about earlier will secure the first kill for EGP. But here comes the teleport. Darkwings is here. They're going to try and take down Tomio, and one final auto will do it. Meanwhile, on the top side is going to be a solo kill for Surdy. Oh, and aggressive underneath the tower. RBM's going to join the party here in the bot lane, but it's a 2-for-1 for EG in this extended engage on multiple fronts.
Yeah, and in the midst of all of that, the solo kill on the top side going down, actually the biggest thing out of this, Faisal already expended teleport to go back up to the top side. This is the counter pick Wukong that Faisal wanted to take into this. He's even had a gank to help him out on this top side, and the fact that Serti is still finding solo kills, still finding plates, is absolutely devastating for AoE on that top side. This is an absolute top lane devastation, and EGP are looking to find their advantages across the rest of the map as well. They get themselves that gank and kill onto the Alistair down on the bot side. It is traded back for one that does get picked up by Sketchstreams, but the fact that this set is so far ahead right now is something that AoE need to address quickly.
Yeah, and just one more play and the goal leads right back into EGP's favor. Darkwing's gonna be taking a bit of damage from the poke of the Orianna. Does have the safeguard to just heal up and remain in lane. But yeah, here comes RBM coming in with the Predator. Shockwave not used, and it's just gonna be a flash coming out from Aspect. Meanwhile, on the bot side, Skytech's gotta be a bit careful. Shoryu gonna continue to rain some autos into the AoE bot lane, and now all of a sudden it's gonna be Sketchstreams and Fizzy who get the push down in the bottom lane.
With that, of course, they do still need to be careful, but they have got sufficient warding around to make sure that they aren't going to be getting ganked. Obviously, they've got the river control with the Scuttle Crab. They've also got a nice control ward there in the enemy's Tri-Brush just to make sure they're not getting ganked at all. We see the game sort of settle back down a little bit here. The CS lead in the top lane closed up a little bit more by the fact that finally Serti had to go back to base and Faisal able to get a little bit of alone time with those minions. Looks like RBM is looking to try and now take away this Rift Herald, recognizing that the UDS should be on the bot side, potentially expecting him to go for the Dragon. Isn't going to be the case here, as we're also seeing Fizzy roam up to this top side. Has got himself those very early boots of swiftness, so roaming around those Summoner's Rift is going to be very easy, and we do see Skytech looking to do a very similar type thing with his Lucidity boots.
Yeah, the boots rush definitely super valuable on the supports. Just get that first item in as soon as possible. Boots are the cheapest item. Why not end up going for it? But now it looks like AoE's going for an aggressive play. That's the flash kick out from Darkwing, showing off his mechanic. He can play all different champions, not just the control mages. Coming in with the Lee Sin, picking up his first kill of the game.
Far too clean in the mid lane right there. Just set up in abundance coming through. Darkwings lands the kick. Flash, there's Alistair waiting over the wall, channeling Hex Flash perfectly. The time on it all was just so pristine. The binding from RBM as well to chain the CC. There was simply no way out for Aspect. And now they could look for Skytech, but he channels that grand exit very well. Down on the spot side though, sure, you're in trouble.
Yeah, Aspect's gonna come in to just protect his AD carry. And now looks like AoE might be in a bit of a dangerous situation. Fizzy is the one that is the last one through. The Unbreakable will cancel some of the crowd control, and it looks like he might get out with his life, but here comes the quickness coming out from Skytech. Fizzy is left out to dry and will likely be the first casualty in this fight. Now Sketchstreams and Darkwings going to try and continue to go forward. That's going to be the binding landing onto the Rakan, and Darkwings is getting exhausted, but that means that Sketchstreams is left untouched. Going to get the resets coming through. That's the Soul Shackles landing onto Shoryu as well, and Sketchstreams is still alive as Meteos goes down to Tomio. Oh, that's the W. as Shoryu gonna snipe away a kill, and now Darkwings is in that 1v1. That's what he does best. The Red Bull 1v1 champion picks up a double kill as AoE win the fight.
Oh, and it's so close to being incredible for AoE down on the bot side. They still get themselves a 2-for-4 trade, which is very nice for them. And obviously, they would have loved to keep Sketch Streams alive right there. It's a lovely snipe from Shoryu and that Void Seeker that gets the kill in the backside of the fight. They are going to get themselves a lot of plates down on this bot side. They get themselves a lot of kills onto Darkwings as well. This mid laner who's been looking to take a bit of a duel now, this top side in a battle.
Fizzy all the way up to the top side. Haymaker's going to do a decent amount of damage, but that's the second proc of the Cyclone. One final Q will do, and Faisal bonks 30 over the head for the second time.
And we're starting to see here more priority be put into this top side there. Faisal getting help from his team, from the support this time round as RBM obviously trying to collect some plates down on the bot side. We've got Fizzy, didn't really have anything to do down in the bot lane, recognised that the waves were going to be incredibly shoved, spent his time going up to the top side, getting Faisal now a little bit more agency in this lane. Still down in CS, but obviously with these kills in his back pocket, with of course the plating gold as well now. If we toggle the gold there, these top laners pretty much even. About 100 gold separating them. There's not really anything to speak of.
Yeah, and either way, despite Surdy dying a decent amount, no matter how far behind he is, he's still a set, still going to be super tanky, going to tank up a lot, provide a lot of hard crowd control and a lot of damage. And now that he's sitting even with Faisal, the matchup that he decided to pick into the set is looking pretty good for him so far. So the first dragon was secured by Tomio and the rest of EGP, but that's just a small a little advantage that they get, because right now the gold is way in AoE's favor.
And if we did get, when we got that chance to talk, we did see in the mid lane Darkwings, obviously 3-0-3 is doing incredibly well in comparison to the Orianna here. Sat 1-2-1, and you can just see in the items in itself, right? Gore Drinker completed versus just the amplifying, or just the Lost Chapter and the Tear of the Goddess there is going to be a very clear advantage for the Lee Sin in that mid lane. We do see turrets traded though, and it's going to be pretty sad actually for Sketch Dreams that he doesn't get the first turret gold. It is going to continue to be top side advantage coming on through, and even down in items, right? Finally, the Stridebreaker picks up for Certi, but it was Divine Sundra versus Components. Wukong paying the respect and paying the price really of losing his top tier 1.
Yeah, and Tomio also on the top side just to generate a little bit more pressure, allowing Surdy to generate a little bit more gold for himself. Now with that first brick, as you said, Rude, picking up that Stridebreaker to match alongside his Bramble Vest. And that item is certainly going to be pretty valuable considering the amount of AD and the amount of healing that is on AoE. And it looks like Tomio's got to be a bit careful. RBM is continuing to chase a little bit, and it looks like the plant is just going to be issued. Skytech's going to be here to protect his jungler.
And, interesting to note, you'll have seen it just there. Darkwing's actually putting a lot of points into the E at this point, is fully maxed out at rank 5. So going to be looking more so for the sort of poke as opposed to the all-in that the Sonic Wave and Resonating Strike can give you. Gives you a lot less committal, but still the same amount of damage. Nice to see AoE here rotating their bot lane up to the top side. Remember, we talked about them trying to facilitate Sketch Streams. They're doing exactly that by giving him a lot of turret plating on this top side. He gets another one in addition to all of those 5 collected down on the bot side. Of course, a couple did go over to Darkwings and RBM after the fight that we did see, but it's still nice to see that they're continually trying to put gold into the Tristana, and it's working here. Obviously, has got a little bit of an experience lead. The Kaiser has now finally been shifted up a little bit late to that play. Obviously, missed out a wave under the turret there that will have been traded back on the bot side, and again, funneling different areas of the map. We've got Certi, who has been a standalone really in this game for EGP, but is still managing to keep even in CS, keep even in those trades, in those fights, and now collecting a decent wave for himself down on the bot side. Is going to be in a fairly decent position to continue to harass the Wukong through this mid game.
Turret plates have just fallen, and with that, it's still AoE with about a 3,000 gold lead. And the next big objective of the game will be that Mountain Dragon, so it means we're getting either Ocean or Cloud as the soul. So not any of those fiery ones coming out here, but as we said, Rude, a lot of the pressure is on Sketch Streams. This is what we were talking about at the beginning of the game. A lot of resources have been funneled into him, and now sitting at 2-1-3, has the Kraken Slayer. The pressure is going to be on him, especially towards these later fights.
And they're going to use the Predator here from RBM just to force down this turret. Could cost them a little bit, though. They obviously don't get the Demolish proc, and RBM has to, continually spend his time here. Have to wait and see if they elect to go for this second Herald. Obviously doesn't really offer you all that much with plates being down. You're not going to get any gold unless you're able to take down a turret entirely. But with that, it draws you back to the mid lane, and look at the priority, the pressure that Dark Queens has been able to put down. He's been able to take this turret to within a Herald charge's death distance. And if they get that Herald, they're going to be able to break open mid-tier 1, complete their sweep of the outer turrets, and unlock the jungle of EGP.
Yeah, and as you say that, second Rift Herald of the game, picked up by RBM and the rest of AoE. We'll probably be looking towards using that towards the mid lane, even potentially as that second dragon spawns. Aspect and Darkwing still just continually trading. Darkwing definitely has the gold advantage for now, working towards that second item, likely going to be the Sterix Gauge, just to get some extra survivability. And it looks like the lanes are just going to try and push out here for EGP, as they may or may not get a chance to reset before this next objective spawns.
Yeah, AoE, they're dictating the pace of the game right here. They're moving their pieces around the map incredibly well. They need to pull RBM back into the mid lane here to try and collect themselves that tier 1 turret in the mid lane. But, of course, they still want to be collecting all of the farm that the jungle has to offer. You can see that the junglers have been keeping pace with one another fairly easily. Fizzy, potentially a bit of trouble.
Oh, already chunked down so low. Didn't have even the chance to pop the ulti, but that's a big flash coming out of the AoE support. And now with Alistar essentially out of the fight, it looks like EGP will go forward and take the dragon 5 people strong. And that's a 2-0 dragon advantage going over to the blue team.
It didn't really look like AoE were ever looking to contest that dragon, to be honest. They've got Darkwing split pushing on the top side. RBM going to be maybe trying to put down the Herald in the mid lane here. We'll have to wait and see. Shoryu just tanking up inside that Tormented Shadow. Definitely not what he would have wanted to lose half of his health to. But there we go. That's going to be mid-tier 1 falling, and that's the complete sweep of those turrets being finished off. So often we see this from teams. They'll quite happily trade the first 2 dragons in exchange for a gold lead, and that's exactly what AoE have done right here. They started themselves off with that fight in the bot lane with about a 2k lead. Since both of those dragons have gone over, it's propelled into a 4k lead. So the gold from the turrets, gold from the farm, everything that we're seeing lost on the top side for Tomio, definitely paying off big time for AoE. You can see Darkwings pillaging the Udyr's jungle, able to take away the wolves and the Gromp as well, and now he's looking for a fight with Certi.
Yes, Jetstreams is on the run as well. Looks like Darkwings is getting the better in the 1v1, but the Haymaker might turn it around just a little bit. Darkwings might have to be a bit careful, but not that much. He's going to pick up his 4th kill of the game. Shockwave's going to land onto 4 people. A lot of AoE coming out from the other team, actually. Skytech's going to flash away. Faisal looking for a kill. Going to hit the cycle, and RBM goes down, and so does Tomio. And now the resets can come through for Sketchstreams. He's going to get another shot onto the explosive charge, and that's a double kill. Going to pick up a triple onto Shoryu, and that is a big team fight win going over to AoE. 18 minutes into the game.
Are they going to go again here? Aspect gets caught by the Q, goes down as well. Darkwings is going to live this as well. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. AoE, they facilitate Sketchstreams. They put so many resources into him in the early game. And now come this mid game, he has paid off huge. He gets himself a triple kill in the fight. Darkwings able to mop up Aspect on the backside of it. They get themselves all 5 members of EGP. They take them down. They're going to take down the top tier 2. And they're going to whack this game wide open.
And can we just talk about Darkwings for just a second?
Yeah.
Here on the lead stand, 5, 0, and 6, contributing to nearly every single one of AoE's kills. Picking up a Serpent's Fang. He says, I don't even need that survivability. I could just go and one-shot the entire team. And this is super impressive. Come out of a player that played primarily control mages. We saw a majority of his games on the Orianna, Victor, and Azir in the last split. Just showing his versatility. A champion like Lee Sin, almost never showing up in the mid lane meta. He's able to pick it up super quick and is winning AoE this game 1.
And the Serpent's Fang here, we have to call out. It's just such a good item. I won't have time as Fizzy's just jumped on in. It looks like it's going to be all for nothing as Skytech will be able to just about make it out to safety there. But look at the shielding potential across everybody on EGP. Quite literally everybody has a shield.
Yeah, literally everybody. The Haymaker coming out, the Turtle Stance, even the Command Protect, and the Killer Instinct as well. Heck, even Skytech's passive as he gets a bit of a shield, but that shield won't be around for very long. With that Serpent's Fang coming out from Dark Wings, Rift Herald finally going to be spawned here by RBM. Going to be headed towards this mid lane, going to try and crack open yet another inner turret here for Area of Effect.
And they get it as well, the mid-tier 2 falling. They're trying to complete the sweep of those inners. There was a TP in there from Certi, but really well played. AoE back off, and now they're going to try and re-engage themselves.
Flash not available for Darkwing. Surdy's going to be able to use his own Summoner spell to try and get away. The Haymaker will buy a little bit of time, but not enough. Sketchstream picks up yet another kill. Going to take the lead in kills on here on the AoE squad, and now they're headed into the turret. And it looks like that big objective will go down. The base of EGP has finally been cracked.
Yeah, if we take a look at the jungle for EGP, he's just kind of jungling on the top side. I mean, to be honest, there's nothing that he can do if he goes back there, right? It's a 4 versus 5. Alistair's still got ulti. If they want to dive you, if you try and pull up a contest, then AoE are well within their rights to do so. So, Tomio making the best of what is admittedly a very bad situation. Losing that pick, getting down 2 turrets in the mid lane just opens up access to the mid lane inhibitor now. With Baron on the table, it has only been live for 30 seconds, so teams potentially a little bit tentative to go for it. But at the same time, you have to imagine here that they're just going to be so ready to try and at least bait it here. They've got themselves such a significant gold lead that they can use the Alistair to try and tank up that Baron for a little bit longer, and then as soon as they wish to turn, they can just go for it, try and find the fight, pull that engage trigger, and they can even use a split push down on the bot side if they so desire. Darkwings, as you've touched on, 507, 2.5 items completed, send him down to the bot lane, use his TP advantage, because if we look at it from everybody on EGP, they simply don't have one, and they're not even going to need to do that. The fact that they see 2 people down on the bot side is just their go button. No TPs means that they should be easily going to AoE.
Yep, it doesn't even look like any contest is possible, as Tomio is all the way down into the bottom side, and RBM will pick it up with the smite for good measure, and that's Baron Nashor going over to AoE at 21 minutes.
And, we talked about the advantages that EGP had. That was going to be those 2 Drake stacks, but in the last 5 minutes, AoE have just ran away with the game. Previously it was about 2 to 3k when EGP were taking the dragon. Look at it now, it's almost 10,000 gold that AoE are up in the lead. They cannot contest this dragon. This is easily going to be a Cloud Drake picked on up. And for a team here, quite like AoE, getting yourself a ton of Cloud Drakes only enables them to go more aggressive here. They're going to have their go buttons, their engages on much shorter cooldowns. The Lee Sin ulti already on a fairly low cooldown as we broach to this late game. And if we get a load of Cloud Drakes on the back of Darkwings as well, he's going to be making plays twice in one team fight at some stage.
Yeah, and that's the only shining light here for EGP, just the dragon lead that they were able to pick up early. And just imagine a Cloud Soul on Area of Effect. Got Wukong, Morgana, even Tristana and Alistar are going to be popping so much move speed if they ended up picking up that soul. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, probably because the game's going to end before that either way, as now that the Baron buff is available for AoE, Tomio's still farming up in the top side. Is this a replay? The inhibitor turret is under fire once again. Tomio, you're going to have to make a move soon, my guy. RBM is the jungler that is here in the EGP bases. They're going to pick up their first inhibitor and their second inhibitor tower.
Okay, now, you can give up 2 inhibitors at the very most here if you feel like your late game scaling goes that well, but then looking down at Tristana, Fizzy jumps in for the engage, doesn't quite find it. TP comes through from Darkwings just to reaffirm that this inhibitor is going to fall. AoE getting themselves everything that they want inside EGP's base here. They're going to now all reset. This is League of Legends 101, ladies and gentlemen. You get the 2 inhibs in 2 lanes. You go up to the other lane, collect that final inhibitor. And that's when we need to see EGP take the fight. The issue is they're down so much gold that the team fight is going to be so difficult. They need to find the absolute miracle fight if they're looking to take this one away. They need to one-shot sketch streams. And then even after that, they're staring down the barrel of a 2-item Wukong, Medjai's Morgana, 3-item Lee Sin. And even if they get rid of Tristana, I don't know that that's enough.
Yeah, and as you said, 2 inhibitors, it's like not the worst, you'll take it. 3 inhibitors is almost always a game-losing situation. We talk about all these miracles of teams being down for 3 inhibs, and that's just because it's so unlikely. Another engage coming out here in the blue side quadrant of EGP. Darkwing just has the ability to go in whenever he wants, has so much ability haste coming in, going to land another Sonic Wave onto Tomio as well. And as you said, Rude, they're going to be heading down this top side, going to try and pick up the final inhibitor of the game.
It should be fairly easy. This is where EGP need to make their stand, and if they're not in position, look, Certi only just finished the recall. They're just giving up this inhibitor. They can't do this right now. They're looking to try and take a fight, but unfortunately the objective's already gone.
Here's the quickness. Fizzy might be locked up just a little bit, but he's so tanky. Shockwave will only land onto 1, but they do get sketch streams. That is the big one. But a 4-man Cyclone coming in from Faisal will secure the team fight win, potentially for Area of Effect. It looks like EGP is forced to run right back to their fountain. It's only a 1-for-1 so far. Both of the 80 carries are dead. Faisal is going to get hit up by the face breaker, but he's really tanky as well. Has a lot of armor on his side. Fizzy's going to go in for the engage onto Aspect, and there's so much damage coming out from Darkwing. Tomio is trying to get in onto the back line, but 707 on the Lee Sin is not going to be a pretty sight if your EGP. 30 is under fire. Tomio is under fire. They are going to take down Darkwings, though. 3v2. This could be the turnaround that EGP needs. The LCS affiliate is looking to try and save game 1, and they will do so on a 4-for-3. 4-for-2.
Looks like RBM might try and take a trade kill there, but those shields are going to keep Tomio alive. A little bit too overzealous there in the base of AGP. We do get punished for it, and I think they know as much as we do here that was a bit too far. They had a very easy win condition right there. When you have triple inhibitor grapes, it's so easy to just sit back, watch the super minions do all the hard work, and then collect your win from there. It's a pretty simple Winions type situation. Unfortunately, they go for a little bit of a highlight montage. They try and get themselves a little bit more than they could do, and then more than they can get away with. It does give over a fairly sizable amount of gold back into the pockets of EGP. There were several big shutdowns sat waiting to collect, not least of which was Darkwings, which did unfortunately go over to Tomio on the Udyr. Definitely not the best place for that one to go, but Shoryu able to collect the bounty onto Sketch Dreams. Definitely going to put that Kai'Sa somewhere near back on the map, right? It's not anywhere near the gold deficit that EGP would have wanted, but they have got a little bit more in the back pockets. Now, Shoryu, 2.5 items compared to the 3 items of Sketch Dreams, which would have probably just been the 2 had you not picked up that kill.
And it looks like AoE want a bit of a rematch. They just mark straight back in to the EGP base. They got to be a little bit careful, though, because now with a little bit more gold, it's going to be the same situation, except the carries on EGP are a bit more fed. Sketch Dreams does have the black shield on, but here comes the engage. Fizz is going to land a 3-man pull, but here comes the showstopper. Not going to be all too much, though, and that's Sketch Dreams as well, putting in the damage as the Cyclone from Pfizer will finish off Surdy. The Nexus is under fire. It will go down. An area of effect. Take game 1.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it was pretty much the victory march right there, so long as they didn't dive under the fountain. It's going to be pretty easy for AoE to shepherd their minions in, take down the turrets, take down the Nexus, and take down game number 1 here. AoE, they come out strong, they come out kicking, and they take the game fairly convincingly.
Yeah, 27-minute victory. Very, very solid for AoE. There was a lot of questions about this team. They lost 3-0 to Revival in the UPL final. Sure, there was a different jungler. RBM wasn't there, but he was a big factor in this game, facilitating a lot of the early game plays, getting the main carries of his squad ahead, and providing so much support as the Nexus exploded in that game 1.
Yeah, and talking about that support that he provided, obviously giving a solo kill, or not solo kill, giving a gank and then a kill over to Faiz on the top side, we'll call it potential weak spot there for AoE, even though it was still a very bright point for them. The Wukong was able to constantly find agency in the team fights, constantly able to do exactly what was necessary to take down the Kai'Sa, take down the Orianna. But in the early game, Certi was still putting out decent pressure, and the fact that we saw RBM move up to that top side and just mitigate it, make sure that this set wasn't going to run away with the game, was definitely pretty impactful, and we also saw Fizzy do the same thing. It's just really good recognition, good acknowledgement from AoE to go, okay, our top needs a little bit of help. If we just give it a little bit of pressure, it spends 20, 30 seconds of our time to stop this snowball from rolling, then the game is going to be easily in our favor.
And it's now back to the drawing board for Evil Genius's Prodigies, who are looking to avoid a 2-0-2 sweep against both of the AoE teams. And a big thing, probably, Rude, will be towards that bot lane. Sketch Dreams on the Tristana picking up his 11th win of the 2021 season. And that is just such a scary pick to have in his hands. Combined, Darkwings, you can't really ban him out. He plays everything. But Sketch Dreams, maybe if you try to focus a little bit onto that Tristana pick, might be a bit of an avenue to try and force one of the more inexperienced players on this team off of a comfort pick.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a route that EGP can look to take, maybe target a little bit of their inexperiencedness on the AoE side. And we did obviously see a little bit of a glimpse of a weakness from Faisal, and see if Certi can potentially find himself an avenue to win out on that top side, as well as a potential throw into game number 2.
Yeah, we'll certainly see if EGP can turn it around or will fall 0-2 to AoE Esports. We're going to take a quick break. Champion Select for that second game will be in your screens in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. We're here at Challengers Uprising once again. AoE taking a strong game one over Evil Genius's Prodigies, and they're going to look to take the sweep here in this second game. Rude AoE decides to elect to stay on that red side for game number two. So we're going to see a similar draft, but potentially some changes here for EGP, as they're the ones that have to try and figure out what they want to do to try and put the momentum back in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, so the a couple of things that you can maybe try to target if you're EGP. You touched on the Tristana, something that I would love to see either removed from the removed from the sort of playable champions on the ban list, or if they try and focus out and put a little bit more priority on the Lee Sin. I think that Darkwings in the mid lane has quite clearly there shown us some very strong dominance, some strong proficiency on that champion. And the Udyr Morgana trade, clearly EGP got themselves what they wanted for that jungle trade, and it simply wasn't enough to net them the victory. So if they spend their priority of blue 1 on something a little bit different, then that is definitely something that they can look to potentially succeed with there if they go for that one. And I think that a large reason we see AoE hop onto red side for game number 2 is so they have the potential to keep Darkwings in a good matchup in the mid lane.
Yeah, we saw him able to take that Lee Sin into the mid lane against Aspect's Orianna. And now, once again, sitting here on red side, Rude, Darkwings or Faisal potentially will be able to get decent matchups potentially for both the solo laners if something like the Lee Sin remains unbanned in this game too. The pro draft will be starting in just a couple of minutes, but before we end up, going into that, Rude, other things that we want to talk about potentially are that top lane matchup 30 going into Faisal on the Wukong with his set pick. That's another interesting thing that could potentially take a look at, because he was doing decent enough, but I feel like one of the main carries of Evil Genius's Prodigies might want to look to take a little bit more agency here.
Yeah, see if they can potentially facilitate Certi a little bit more, maybe get him in a better position to be a carry force here on EGP. See if they can facilitate this top laner even more, so play to that top side synergy that they've definitely got going on. Obviously, we touched on the bot side being a little bit more, or being newer to this EGP squad, and obviously in game number 1, whatever the plan was, it simply didn't work. All right, they got themselves a couple of dragons out of AoE, playing more through the top side, collecting gold and getting resources instead of prioritizing those dragons. But ladies and gentlemen, we do have ourselves a draft number 2 here, the second pro draft of tonight, and potentially the final one if we've got anything to say about it.
We're seeing some very similar bans that we saw in game 1. Rumble, Thresh, Gwen, Renekton, all taken off the board. That said, Jinx ban, once again, targeted towards sketch streams, does have a decent amount of games on it. And now AoE elect for a bit of a different approach here, banning away that Morgana, that Varus, that AoE decided to try and take away from Shoryu is going to be left untouched. You don't normally see Varus locked in on that B1, but now we might potentially take a look at that, or might just be back to the Udyr.
And obviously here, with Rumble off the table, this is 2 of 3 jungle picks that have been sort of removed. And obviously EGP here, they're quite happy to keep Tomio on this Udyr. Get him that staple jungle pick. They're going to have an S tier jungler now relative to what we'll say an A tier jungler, right? This Udyr is by far and away the cream of the crop left up on the table. And I have to imagine AoE had got something on sort of wrapped up and ready to try and answer this. Be it a bit more early game aggression out of something like an Olaf, be it that they've got the Diana locks and loaded. We'll have to wait and see what their jungle pick is. They don't have to lock it here yet, which is the important part, right? They can quite easily take themselves 2 very highly priced picks. If they want the Varus, which didn't get banned, they can take that as well here. Lee Sin was a big pick for AoE in game number 1. Varus being banned in game 1 is still easily able to be picked up by AoE here. But my question is, do they want to take Varus when they can take Tristana for, excuse me, 4 sketch streams down in the bot lane?
Well, it's going to be a Diana lock-in here for RBM in jungle. This is going to be super exciting. It's that mid jungle, potentially the AP jungle, the AD mid. And with Lee Sin coming in, it looks like Darkwings or Faisal is potentially saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And I want to see, this is going to be waiting all the way around till R5 if we do see it locked in. But Yasuo with a Diana is something that I love as a combo to see come through for mid jungle. Obviously, they have a lot of magic damage coming out of this Diana, and they'd probably need something with a bit of a hybrid. So talking to this Kai'Sa on AoE could very well come through as a facilitator, and that is all coming down to the fact that they would want, if they wanted to take Yasuo in the mid lane, the combo between those two. Very nice, and I can get into it if it ends up being picked up. EGP though, quite happy to collect themselves this Varus. Sure, are you very comfortable on this one? They take the set as well for 30 up, presumably in the top side of the map here. So EGP running it back for the most part here. They do have themselves what they're going to deem a more appropriate AD carry, I guess. They wanted this over the Kai'Sa, which still remains open. But if AoE don't take their AD carry here, it's very easy for us to just see Tristana Kai'Sa bans, and then we're down to a little bit of a lower AD carry priority.
Well, it's going to be the Varus, as you said, going over to show you. Set, once again, getting picked up, and that's another pick that we were talking about earlier, Rude, that Tristana, that Sketch has been so successful on, going to be picked up for himself down in the bottom side, we can only assume. And if things all go to plan here, he's going to be looking for his 12th win of the season on that champion. His second phase of bans are now underway.
Yeah, I think getting Tristana for Sketch is just something that every team is going to be either looking to avoid happen post today, or just to really put in a good word in that respect, to put a lot of respect on the Tristana name here. And I'm very interested to see that EGP are actually the ones banning away the Nautilus here. You can see AoE targeting double support bans, more so because of the interaction between Tristana and Nautilus. Obviously, the hook that Nautilus throws out is incredibly difficult for a Tristana to buffer jump away from here. So there's going to be, I think, 5 support bans here in this draft. It is the Leona that gets swapped to here. So I mean, this is just going to be Alistair, you have to imagine, coming through once again here on this R4. We know Fizzy is incredibly comfortable on it, and if they take the same bot lane here, I don't see any reason they wouldn't do.
And this is super interesting, Rude, because despite EGP taking that loss here in game 1, they have the same 5 bans in this game too, so not a lot of differentiation here. But instead, it's going to be AoE shifting the gears just a little bit. Going to still go towards that melee engage support, but instead of the Alistar, going to be the Rel. Now, on the side of EGP, they have to choose if they want to take a support and a mid laner here, and I would really like to see maybe Varus paired along something like the Lulu. Getting another enchanter in there could be super useful on Skytech.
Yeah, I think that unfortunately, Varus, Lulu, not really a lane that we see, given the lethality style Varus that we see. Typically, you want to pair enchanters with hyper carry crit scalers, so we are going to see the Alistar locked in. And now this is very dependent on the mid lane matchup here, Graves, but what looks really good for AoE here? How many knockups have they got? How many displacements do they have? Is there a champion that springs to mind, maybe?
Oh,
this is all very dependent on the mid matchup, though.
Yeah, obviously, and we'll see what Aztec wants to pull out here. It's going to be the Orianna, so, I mean, it's not a bad matchup, Rude. But we're going to see it.
I think, okay, I'd be disappointed if we don't. It's still very out there to see a Yasuo locked on in. It really does depend on multiple variables. There's Faisal and his comfort on the top side, if he can take the Lee Sin into a set. Most likely we would just see a potential run back of the Wukong on that top side and go for something like that. But the Sylas actually locked in the mid lane. Definitely a very powerful champion to be locking in for themselves, especially when you're staring down an Alistar.
Another one of the Darkwing specials here. That Sylas coming in. Obviously, the Alistar ultimate is the one that strikes perfectly first, as something that AoE would want to try and hijack away from EGP's side. But even things like the Chain of Corruption, the Showstopper, hell, even if our Orianna Shockwave can get stolen, lots of incredible ultimate abilities that Sylas can try to take away. We're not going to talk about Udyr because that one sucks, but either way, AoE lining themselves up with a very similar team composition that we saw in game number 1. Only difference is that Diana coming in instead of the other pickup that RBM decided to go for in the it was banned away, but very similar styles for the rest of the team comp.
And honestly, we can't say that this is going to be, with absolute authority, Darkwings is Sylas in the mid lane. Sylas can easily be flexed up to the top side and wouldn't be too far removed to see Faisal lock in the Silas for himself. Obviously, stealing away that set ulti gives you a very nice little disengage in certain situations. Obviously, a grand engage as well if you're looking to try and get away with something like that. So again, solo lane flexibility displayed by AoE, the fact that they can take different solo lanes and flex their champions around, is definitely something that EGP haven't got themselves so far in this draft. And it comes down to this side selection here. When you're on blue side, typically you're going to end up safely blind picking one of your solo laners. And in this case, it was mid lane, right? They can't be locking in something spicy in the mid lane that gets easily countered by something that is much more meta. So they have to, or feel like they've got to at the very least, default back to Orianna, that safe wave clear control mage in the mid lane that can still have insane impact, we should add, but needs to be, doesn't need to be respected as much necessarily by the other champions that you're putting out from AoE side, and they're able to take this matchup, be it Lee Sin in the mid lane, be it Silas in the mid lane, whatever it is. Orianna doesn't have the exact same level of aggression, let's say.
Yeah, and it looks like the second game in a row for Aspect's Orianna, second game in a row for Tomio's Udyr, and that's kind of the stability that EGP want to rest on here. Sitting here on the blue side, once again, they do really like blue side, picked it in all 4 of their OQs, but either way, this is a very interesting draft that they've set up here. A little bit of a different situation here. Instead of the Kai'Sa diving in onto the back line, it's going to be Varus picked up here. We're potentially going to see that lethality come through with things like the Prowler's Claw, even the Serpent's Fang. And it's a very different approach that Shoryu is going to pull out. But remember, AoE did ban this champion in game 1, so we'll be excited to see how he does here.
Yeah, and Varus as well, just as an AD carry, thrives in the laning phase as just by being a lot longer range than Tristana early on. You know, auto spacing in the early stages could be something to keep our eyes on. And for Sketchstream's obviously going to know the limits of the early game Tristana range, but still needs to be cognizant of the fact that Varus is very dominant in this laning phase. Yeah. With something like the Alistar as well, this Alistar into Rel matchup isn't something that we've seen quite so recently, but the two supports do have niche interactions with one another. The Alistar can counter the Rel's engage, the Rel can counter the Alistar's engage. You know, it was dubbed a little bit early on that Alistar was the be-all and end-all counter to the Rel, but at the same time, Rel can fluff Alistar's engage just as easily with a snap on that E-cast. So both of these supports have the ability to stuff, to stymie, to prevent engages coming on through from one another, and that execution is something that we really need to keep track of as well. Maybe not so much in the laning phase, but come those late game team fights.
And there's just a couple of minutes until this second game unfolds. EGP need a win to stay alive in this series, and AoE, they're rolling right now, and they've taken the game 1 pretty convincingly, and with a very similar draft that they have set up for themselves in this game 2, going to try and do some more of the same. But if you don't remember what happened in game 1, or if you're just tuning in, first of all, welcome. Second of all, we got a bit of a highlight reel to show you from some of the big plays that happened in game 1 that led to AoE taking the Nexus. We'll see you on the other side. Might be a bit concerning for the AoE bot lane. Here comes Tomio, does have the flash bear slap available, is going to try to flash, going to stun up Fizzy. The exhaust that we were talking about earlier will secure the first kill for EGP, but here comes the teleport. Darkwings is here. They're going to try and take down Tomio, and one final auto will do it. Meanwhile, on the top side, it's going to be a solo kill first item. Why not end up going for it? But now it looks like AoE's going for an aggressive play. That's the flash kick coming out from Darkwing, showing off his mechanics. He can play last one through. The Unbreakable will cancel some of the crowd control, and it looks like he might get out with his life, but here comes the quickness coming out from Skytech. Fizzy is left out to dry and will likely be the first casualty in this fight. Now Sketchstreams and Darkwings going to try and continue to go forward. That's going to be the binding landing onto the Rakan, and Darkwings is getting exhausted, but that means that Sketchstreams is left untouched. Going to get the resets coming through. That's the Soul Shackles landing onto Shoryu as well, and Sketchstreams is still alive as Meteos goes down to Tomio. Oh, that's the W. As Shoryu gonna snipe away a kill, and now Darkwing is in that. Yes, Sketchstreams is on the run as well. Looks like Darkwing is getting the better in the 1v1, but the Haymaker might turn it around just a little bit. Darkwing might have to be a bit careful, but not that much. He's going to pick up his 4th kill of the game. Shockwave's going to land onto 4 people. A lot of AoE coming out from the other team, actually. Skytech's going to flash away Faisal, looking for a kill. Going to hit the Cyclone. RBM goes down, and so does Tomio. And now the resets can come through for Sketchstreams. Going to get another shot onto the explosive charge, and that's a double kill. Going to pick up a triple onto Shoryu, and that is a big team fight win going over to AoE. 18 minutes into the game.
Are they going to go again here? Aspect gets caught by the Q, goes down as well. Darkwings is going to live this as well. And there we go.
Carries on
GP have
EGP
to
are a
fight.
bit more fit, are a bit more fed. Sketchstreams does have the black shield on, but here comes the engage. Fizzy's gonna land a 3-man pull, but here comes the showstopper. Not gonna be all too much though, and that's Sketchstreams as well, putting in the damage as the Cyclone from Pfizer will finish off Surdy. The Nexus is under fire. It will go down. An area of effect. Take game 1.
Essentially.
Summoner's Rift.
Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you didn't miss us too much because we got game 2 between EGP and AoE, and right off the bat, a bit of a interesting level 1 potentially area of effect. They do have the crash down from Fizzy. They're going to try and lock down Shoryu. Yeah, I didn't even get a chance to introduce us. There's just action already happening.
No, Grapes, you know, these guys are going health for leather level 1, and I wanted to touch on this bot lane coming into it because I was thinking that this is somewhere that EGP could look to try and exploit. In the first game, they were able to get themselves a laning lead based off of jungle pathing as well, Tomio showing his face a little bit down on the bot side, and then getting a cheater recall. Sure, you actually had a very decent advantage in that bot lane isolated in the 2 versus 2. And now with the Varus, he has a much better laning AD carry to try and extend that lead once again. That being said, they have just burned his flash, and he's definitely going to be feeling a little bit worse for wear for that one, and won't be able to play quite so aggressively in the early stages of the laning phase. You know, Fizzy is going to be very easily able to find those engages. Sketchstreams no longer needs to worry about if he can, you know, if the rocket jump is going to get flashed away from, because not only do we have that tool as a bit of a slow, they've also got Attract and Repel as a bit of an engage tool as well with the Rel, that she doesn't have to find that engage so easily. She can just rely on the rocket jump to begin with.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's a really interesting combo that they have unlocked there in the bot lane. We've seen things like Samira Rel, even Kai'Sa Rel, the Tristana Rel, a little bit less present I would say, but certainly something that could be super interesting here. Darkwings and Aspect, once again, just going at it early on in this game. And we saw blue buff starts for both the junglers in game 1. We're going to see red buff starts for both of them in game 2.
They're prepping for a level 2 all in here. Fizzy is going to have Flash ready. He's dismounted, looking for the engage with that remount upon level 2. You need to see EGP respect this with the highest of regard right here. You can see Skytech is just waiting. You know, he's shepherding his AD carry right here, predicting that for the Flash coming through, there's going to be an immediate pulverize, an immediate headbutt, whatever it may be. Skytech is stood and ready. Unfortunately, you know, they're going to be able to get to level 2 fairly easily. Sketch obviously playing the Tristana, does push in this wave passively just by auto-attacking the wave and last hitting those minions. And you can even see down there that Shoryu still getting the better end of these trades just with that extended range that Varus has got.
Yeah, excellent job there by the EGP bot lane. Knowing that the level 2 was going to come, they ended up playing under the tower just to prevent any sort of hard engage coming out from Fizzy. Darkwings, though, a little bit careful. He does have a bunch of potions taken, does have a cookie as well, but that's a nice trade from Aspect, going to force a back coming out of the AoE mid laner. So a bit of a difference here. A lot less prio going Darkwings' way here in this game too.
Silas into the Ori, not quite as favourable it would appear then as that Lee Sin. And down on this bot side, this is getting fairly scary here for Sketch Streams, for Fizzy. You know, they've got to try and push this wave all the way under the turret. They finally get a crash, so the wave is going to start to neutralise here and put itself back into the centre of the lane. And now they can start to look a bit more aggressively onto Shoryu. But Shoryu and Skytech have done a really good job manipulating the lane, keeping it outside of their turret for the majority of Shoryu's flash timer here. You've got about a quarter of that cooldown left to go. That's about 1 minute and 15 seconds before anything scary is going to be coming on through. And now a flash engage from Surti traded the flash back, but needs to be careful. Tomio's lurking.
That was really aggressive coming out from Surti. Forcing the flash out of Faisal, but now one person that doesn't have flashes, sure, you're going to get hit up with the explosive charge. The Ignite is ticking. That's the shot. And oh, the heal coming out from Skytech. I was ready for a big like explosion sound. I was going to go all like really crazy noises or something, but the heal is crucially going to save Shoryu's life there in the bottom lane. It appears we have a bit of technical difficulties right now. We will get back to you once things... We'll keep you updated on what's happening. I currently can't see the game. And so things are just kind of unfolding normally, but that was very close to being a 2v2 kill in the bot lane that we were talking about. And yeah, taking a look at that, we're going to get a lot more pressure generated here in this bottom lane. But now Shoryu and Skytech, after Fizzy ended up taking that base, are going to head over to and get the push in onto Sketchstream. Sketchstream's going to just collect the wave and going to allow Shoryu and the EGP bot lane to be taking that recall. It looks like things are coming back. Rude, are you there?
I think so. We love the EU internet. We can only pray that it stays with me throughout the rest of the broadcast. I'm sorry to everyone that ruined the viewing experience, but things happen. Remote broadcasts, yada yada yada, whatever you want to say. We are back, and a nice play down on that bot side, able to cement Fizzy, the first one to go down, and cement Shoryu first blood here. So that bot side, which should have been fairly strong, is definitely going to get even stronger with this Varus getting a kill.
Oh, I didn't end up actually seeing that, but it looks like, yeah, Tomio ended up coming down to the bot lane and assisting in that first blood, going over to EGP. So once again, the advantage going over to EGP's side here in this game 1 towards that bottom lane. The only question now is, will that hold? Because it didn't really hold in that game 1.
No, I think that here with the issue from game 1 that we saw was that Darkwings was just taking over in the mid lane. And granted, there's a 5 CS lead, but that is nothing compared to what we're seeing in the top lane. If you take a look at the CS disparity between these two top laners, it is insane right here. Faisal is levels 5 to level 6. Faisal is down at more than half of the CS of the set. Has had to base, has had to burn TP. And if we look at the gold right here, he's down almost 700 with not really anything going on. Tomio is up here, and now they're looking for the dive.
Oh, this is insult to injury. Tomio gonna go for a second gank of the game. Faisal just forced underneath his inner turret. RBM is going to secure that dragon in return, but this is just pure pain on Faisal. You hate to be a top laner in this situation. Surti's getting everything that he wants here. AoE's going to try and look for another engage here. That's the Moonfall coming in onto Aspect, and Darkwings will pick up the kill.
Easy as you like there, RBM recognizing he doesn't need to be hitting Crescent Strike, just has to dash on top and use that Moonfall. The flash isn't enough distance on the Ori to get yourself all the way out of that Moonfall, ends up getting pulled right back in, and Darkwings there able to land that Abduct after the abscond to get the kill back in that solo lane. So we talked about the advantage being in Darkwings' favour in game number 1, and now we're seeing RBM try to facilitate that once again to be a bit of an overpowering force here. Aspect might try and look to stop the recall here, but could pay for his life.
That's the shockwave. Oh my goodness, Darkwings with no mana in his pool still manages to take it down Aspect in a solo kill situation, as that's his second kill of the game. And just like we said, Rude, Darkwings once again coming out super strong.
Reworked presence of mind, baby. He's able to steal away some of the mana on Aspect and able to just about take that solo kill with what little resources he had. Now goes back to base, picks up a full lost chapter, 4 stacks on the Dark Seal now. And if that mid lane wasn't scary enough with 1 kill going over to Darklings, Aspect getting solo killed now. He rushes the Oblivion Orb in this matchup. This is something that honestly you kind of have to do against a Sylas, but it feels so bad. You're delaying your mythic by so long. Imagine that you're going for the tier as well. You've got boots in there. This is effectively 1500 gold on something that's not even useful.
Bot lane for AoE looking to go aggressive. Nice shockwave from Aspect to disengage to prevent him from dying for the 3rd time in game 2. And with that, bot lane for EGP will get a bit of a push. And even though Darkwings is super ahead, we still have to remember of that absurd gap of gold in the top side, as Surdy is just continuing his reign of dominance. The former rank 1 player making his presence known up here in the same matchup that he had in game 1. And now with the Rift Herald spawned here, Faisal has to be careful. He knows that Surdy is significantly stronger than him. Look at the items. It's like 1,200 gold, 2,000 gold to like 700, but Darkwings is here. That's a stronger member of AoE Esports, going to get stunned up by the Bear Slap of Tomio, and he's just going to, by the time, make sure that RBM, his former teammate from Zeus, current teammate of AoE, will pick up the first Rift Herald of the game.
Okay, so we're seeing the 2 strong forces collide here, with mid lane being more priority in AoE's favour, with top lane being more priority in EGP's favour. We see that it is mid lane that rules the roost here in game number 2. The fact that Darkwings comes over means that Certi, Tomio don't really want to be going for that play, don't want to go for that fight, and the Rift Herald is picked up by RBM. Worth noting that he also got the Drake down on the bot side here, so has been collecting those neutral objectives without really any fall or any sort of need for the team to join on in. Going to be looking to see if he can continue the snowball, get even more objectives, and see where that Herald, importantly, gets placed, because there are 2 side lanes that aren't going too greatly for the AoE squad, but there's a mid lane that could be blown wide open with a well-placed and well-timed Herald.
It is interesting to note, though, Rude, that despite Darkwings being 2-0, there's no shutdown on him, which just shows that the gold is significantly in favor of EGP, just given the side lanes that they have right now. Sturdy having a much better time against Vice's Lee Sin than he did against the Wukong earlier, now sitting at about that 40 CS lead, and continuing to just get plate after plate, pushing the waves in again and again. And now with the rest of the EGP top side headed up towards Sturdy, just Vice's going to have to take yet another back.
It's so brutal on this top side. He's going to be down 2 levels before he knows it here. Plate after plate going into Certi's favour here. And the Lee Sin doesn't want to spend TP to get back up to the top side. You know, you're allowed 1 TP back into your lane. You're not allowed 2 unless things are going catastrophically wrong on that top side. And you can look, you even saw Tomio there was just lurking, making sure that if the Lee Sin stayed around, there would have been a free dive angle. They're trying to break down bot tier 1 turret as an exchange on this bot side, but they're going to lose top tier 1 before that even comes to be. I've seen Darkwings go for a little bit of a trade up against Tomio in the mid lane. They're going to be fairly isolated as the charge comes through. Certi's here.
Fresh off that first plate, Gold gonna try and look for an engage here. They're gonna stun up Fizzy. The Showstopper is here, and it's gonna potentially stop the show of Fizzy. The Magna Storm is in, and Surdy will finish off the kill with a Haymaker. Now 2-2 in EGP's favor. The gold lead a bit more towards that blue side, and Shoryu once again just continuing to get stronger and stronger here. This is the laning dominance that we were talking about coming out of the EGP bot lane.
Yeah, and with that, of course, you know, 1 kill going over Darkwings though.
Aspect, gotta be careful. That's the crescent coming out from RBM. Just gonna do a little bit of a fadeaway, throw out the ability, walk away. Cool, guys, don't look at explosions. And that's the first kill of the game going over to RBM as the 3rd death for Aspect. And now Here comes Faisal coming in from the flank. The TP was beautiful. That's why he didn't use it up top. They're going to lock up Shoryu, take him down. Faisal picks up a kill. And now it looks like Sketch Team has to be a bit careful. Skytech's going to flash in for the kill, but right under the tower means that Faisal can pick it right up. And that means that a lot of the gold is actually very, very even again in the top side.
That's exactly what Faisal needs. Honestly, I don't know that it's going to be enough to get him back into this lane. Honestly, so much of the deficit comes from more than just the gold. It's coming from the experience disadvantage as well here. You know, currently only 8 to 9 might not be the worst thing in the world, but every single level that you lose is about 500 gold's worth of stats in base levels that you aren't able to acquire. Serti on the top side has now collected himself about 3 or 4 uncontested waves. He's going to be able to get himself maybe even more damage onto that top tier 2 as well. And you can see, if you look at the minimap, Sketchstreams can't step up to this. Tomio's nearby, and this set is well within his rights to start one-shotting this Tristana underneath the tier 2.
Oh man, double autos combined with the Q max from 30 means that the towers go down so fast, and now Sketchstream's gonna have to use the rocket jump away. As the 30 said, it's very strong. Busy and the rest of the AoE bot lane will be here to pick up the remains of that wave. We're 13 minutes in. Top tier 2 is already down. This is insane laning from 30.
And this is what we wanted to see, right? We talked about the fact that Faisal was potentially a bit of a weak link coming through in game number 1, and Serti in this game, be it that this is a better matchup, be it that Serti has just decided that he needs to go ham, he's managing to collect kill after kill, or rather, but CS after CS really, the most important feature right here. Now looking to potentially catch out Sketchstream, saying he's got no support really. Fizzy's nearby, but there's a great big wall in the way. There's a lot of terrain in favor of the set right here, and Tristana is going to be in trouble.
Here he goes. The TP is going to come out to prevent any sort of engage, and now Serti's got to be a bit in trouble. Serti is going to use this showstopper, onto Sketchstreams and pick up the kill, and that is the collapse that we were looking for from EGP. 2 kills going over to the main carries on AoE, and that is a beautiful chain of events coming out from the Prodigies.
The setup was so good. The fact that Serti bided his time for so long in that brush. There was no way that Sketchstreams was anticipating it. No way that anybody on AoE was expecting a set to come rolling out of that brush. And as well as Sketchstreams played it here, saving the showstopper for when the Tristana uses her rocket jump to try and get away. Says, no thank you. We're going to be taking you into our turret, taking you down, and shutting down the Tristana. Something that we definitely need to see continue here, because we've already talked about Sketchstreams now with an 11-1 record on that Tristana. You know, taking down a peg or 2 in the laning phase, taking down another one as they try and transition him around the map. Definitely going to be an avenue of success right here. They've hit on all of the key points that we talked about from games 1 to 2, getting themselves a better topside matchup, getting themselves more facility out of the bot lane as well. Everything that EGP will have wanted.
This game is so close. It's a slight gold lead on the EGP, but the 2 dragons on to AoE. It's a similar situation, just the opposite way that we saw in game 1. An Aspect, after being behind significantly, able to pick up 2 kills here, 15 minutes in, gonna start to work towards that Luden's Echo, and he's gonna just try to be stronger here. Faisal, though, gonna kick Serti back into the tower. He's tanking so much, and the Haymaker will miss onto the top laner. Fizzy will get the assist, potentially, if the kill ends up going over, but Skytech wants to try and save his top laner. Will he do it? No, he flashes right in to bring him into his arms, and now Darkwing and RBM are going aggressive here. Tomio is going to get chunked out pretty low, but Darkwing has to be careful. The Kingslayer was not actually ended up using, so it's a 1-for-1, but Sketchstreams picks up a kill. He's going to rocket jump in, fights on 2 fronts. Fizzy going to end up getting down dangerously low as they take down Skytech in return. Shoryu will pick up his 2nd kill of the game, and now it's Faisal versus Shoryu. This is the 1v1. Can we get it? That's a Sonic Wave. That's the healing, but no. The arrow for Shoryu will pick up the kill. And that is him patting that rookie on the back, saying, nice try, let's try again sometime soon.
So a 3-for-3 overall across the map right there, if you exclude Serti going down to begin with, to start all of that off. So overall, 4 kills to AoE, 3 back to EGP. That was chaos on multiple fronts
Yeah.
right here. We saw Faisal and Fizzy trying to dive in the bot side. We saw the same thing happening on the top side, and against maybe the run of play right here, AoE get themselves not only the advantage in kills, they also managed to take down a turret, and they're the ones that are making the plays happen. You know, going from that position that you touched on not a minute ago here, Grapes. We were expecting EGP to start dictating the pace of this game, but AoE, they say no chart, no thank you. They're just going to start turning it on their favor as well. And despite all of the shutdown that came through onto Faisal, he's more than happy to try and take the fight.
Surdy really wanted that tower. Finally ends up taking it. Now Darkwing's stuck in a 1v2, but here comes Faisal. Gore Drinker is unlocked, but Tomio is going to take down the Silas. 1Q from RBM will secure the kill onto the set, and that is the collapse from AoE, picking up 2 kills.
And this is going to net them the dragon as well. 20 seconds till that one respawns, 30 seconds till Tomio comes back up. Soul point for AoE going to be the reward here. Fizzy needs to be careful that he doesn't step too far forward. This poke coming through from Shoryu is going to be devastating. We saw the power of that piercing arrow, the power of that Varus. He's able to stack up that Blight, able to very easily take down some squishier targets. And even as far as Fizzy goes, hasn't got any armor particularly to speak of. A single cloth armor and down 2 levels doesn't bode too well. As AoE, they're looking to try and take this Drake, but EGP don't want to give it up for free.
Oh, it was just too quick. RBM's going to pick it up, and now Darkwings might be a bit stuck in the backside. That's a nice kill going over to Aspect as he picks up a double because Fizzy also fell in return. So they lose the soul point, but another 2 kills. That's the tempo. Once again, going into EGP's favor. They're going to take it down this mid lane tier 1, work that gold lead back towards them.
So a little bit of an overzealous TP there by Darkwings. I think that honestly, if he doesn't TP in there, then the rest of the team, or then the rest of EGP are just going to push forward and try and take out everybody else on AoE. So it's one of those where it looks a little bit in from Darkwings, but honestly, if there was the other, we're in a parallel universe where the opposite plays out, then it could have been a lot worse for AoE. Giving over 2 kills in exchange for Soul Point, still good for EGP to get themselves a little bit of gold back in their pockets, as well as collecting that mid-tier 1 to enable them to do that even more so. Is definitely going to be putting them in a decent spot. But remembering game number 1, when we talked about, you know, trading Drakes for gold, we saw at 2 Dragon Point, AoE had got themselves about a 4k gold lead. Now looking at EGP, they're up 1k, but they've only got themselves, and they're down 3 dragons rather. They're looking to get this second Herald, maybe not going to be able to use it to the greatest extent. What they need is a big fight to happen, and then use this to break open the base.
Look at Faisal's score. 5-1-1,
Yeah.
but still down 40 CS. I mean, he's basically playing like second jungler here, not really going for the waves as much as he is going for the fights, just going in, trying to take some kills, and it's working for AoE. They're getting the gold onto their top laner in a bit of an unorthodox way, but it's still working. He has the components very similar to Surdy on the set, despite the big lane disadvantage.
And you can call killing people unorthodox if you want, Grapes, but this is League of Legends here. We're looking to call people out for going for these plays, and that's exactly what Faisal has been doing. You can see the gold lead is still in Certi's favor here, about 700 gold to the good, but Fizzy walking forward has got a team.
The engage is beautiful. 2 great ultimates, but the damage isn't really there from Sketchstream. Not put as far ahead as he was in that game 1. The 2 tanks are going to get away with their lives with just taking away 2 ultimates there for AoE.
They're sat on a ward, so you know at the end of the day, AoE knew exactly what they were doing there. They knew they were engaging into Udyr Alistair. I don't think that they realized it was Udyr Alistair or something. You know, they managed to get full combo with Diana, full combo from the Tristana, and we're going to see a fight down here. I think Faisal's just interrupting the base right here. He still doesn't win this 1v1.
I want to see a 1v1 so badly right now. This answers the question: is the CS better or the kills better? More important. I mean, it's right now age-old question. Level, but yeah, it's the age-old question.
But going forward here, it's worth looking at the rest of the builds that we've got coming through right here. Have got ourselves a Magi Soul Stealer here for the Diana. Only 8 stacks so far for RBM, but if one good team fight goes in his favor, that could very easily balloon into 10, 15, and maybe even breaking into 20. The most gold efficient item in League of Legends if you can get it going. Scaredstreams is stepping incredibly aggressively right here, but look at EGP. They've got inside track on mid lane. They've got Herald. Yeah. Exactly. If AoE aren't able to respond to this could very easily be an inhibitor going down.
AoE's on the wrong side of the map for this situation. The Rift Herald will get a charge off onto the inner turret, and will end up taking it down. It looks like EGP is going to even up the turret count at 4, but It looks like AoE are gonna want to try and fight. There's a flank from Fizzy. There's a flank from Darkwings. The Magnet Storm is gonna lock up a couple people at the Showstopper. We'll try to zone him out. Meanwhile, on the other side of the fight, Aspect's gonna be taken down, and that is 2 kills already going over to AoE. Assure You goes down as well. Fizzy is so low, but will manage to survive as now Skytech is the next target. He'll try to butt Darkwings out, but not RBM. 21 minutes in the play. Sure, EGP got the turret, but it looks like AoE is gonna get the fight, and they're gonna get the Baron.
We win the fight on all fronts there. There's a 2v1 happening that Aspect simply cannot win up against the Lee Sin and the Tristana. But somehow in the front line, Darkwings, Fizzy and RBM are able to take the 3 versus 4 up against the remaining squad of EGP. They come away with 3 kills for themselves, they lose nobody, and they gain the Baron as well. With 30 seconds left on this Drake, it's going to be a race against time to see if they can get out in time to collect that soul, or if they're going to use this Baron to maybe try and barrel it down mid lane.
AoE looking in a very good position right now. On soul point with the Baron buff and the gold lead. Gold is still rather close though, and if EGP can get a good fight that they want, manage to keep Shoryu alive could work well for them. But they're gonna have to fight for this Mountain Dragon. The soul will be so hard for Shoryu to do anything if it ends up going towards AoE. Fizzy and Darkwing's gonna try and lock up Tomio. The Udyr is pretty fast, pretty tanky, but there comes the Magnet Storm. They're gonna lock up Skytech as well. Sketch is hitting onto the front line, but RBM and Faisal are going in onto 30. The strongest member for EGP might be in a bit of trouble, but looks like Darkwings has taken away the Unbreakable will be available as the Mountain Dragon spawn.
And you can see their set looking to recall. 30 has got TP. There's still a chance for a contest, but this Drake is already gone. Tomio's got flash though. He wants to get in there.
Oh, will it happen? The steal! It was 17 HP, but Aspect couldn't end up getting it. The Shockwave will try to lock up some of the members of AoE, but the damage is nowhere near enough. Surdy going to teleport straight into his death as he can't win this 1v2. RBM is going to pick up his 6th kill of the game. Faisal will pick up his 6th kill of the game, and it looks like AoE are in such a strong position to sweep the series.
They're starting to run away with game number 2 here, Grapes. They get themselves the Baron, they get themselves the Mountain Soul as well. They've still got the Baron at their backs for another minute and a half right now. They didn't spend too long dallying around that Dragon Pit, and they can use this to go even further. Darkwing burns the Unbreakable Will. Can he find Shoryu?
Doesn't look like the chains will land. Fizzy gonna try and crash in as well. Shoryu's not locked for this world. Darkwings will slay the king, and it looks like the first inhibitor of the game will be under fire at 24 minutes.
Mid lane inhibitor falls now. EGP with their backs against the wall. We knew this was going to be a big matchup here. We knew that this was the 2 favorites of the group trying to battle it out for first seed. AoE coming out tonight making a statement if they can take this series 2-0. They still have to dot their I's. They still have to cross their T's. They're going to look to do it through the bot lane here. Try and break open that other inhibitor. With Shoryu still down for 10 seconds. AoE, they can very easily try and force this one.
And almost what looks like a replay of game number 1. AoE is going to go first through the mid inhibitor, then towards that bot lane inhibitor. Aren't going to pick up that bottom lane crystal. Instead, they're going to go for a bit more of an earlier reset. Going to try and go for another push in just a little bit. But look at the gold right now. Almost 5,000 gold here. And the shutdowns available on all 4 of the carries of AoE. That just shows you how far ahead they are. Even Faisal, who's still down so much CS, is now just even with 30.
Incredible, to be honest, that Faisal's been able to get back into this game. Coming all off the back of a really decent play down on that bot side at the tier 1 turret for AoE. Tomio is in the wrong neighborhood right here. You know, whenever you see an Udyr walk up to an AD carry, typically you're favoring the Udyr, but Sketchstream's right now incredibly strong with that Mountain Soul. AoE, they're still looking to maybe find their finishing touches to this game. It's by no means over. You know, they've been able to find some decent team fights, and that's exactly what their composition looks to do. If you look at just the wombo combo of all of their ultis, they're looking to set up for all these team fights. And, you know, on the other side, Varus is renowned for being an excellent poker, an excellent team fighter. However, you're not really the same. You know, the hyper carry status of a Tristana definitely outweighs the poke that you can do if it's a full frontal engage that has been set up by AoE. For the time being, they're going to go back to just doing the basics here, securing all of the camps inside the enemy's jungle, making sure they're not missing out on any minions themselves, making sure that they aren't giving up gold for nothing here, and trying to choke out EGP. You can see them meticulously moving from top to bot. That open inhibitor on the bot side should be going begging here as Skytech dashes in.
Ooh, RBM was looking for the engage, doesn't end up using that moonfall. It just look at how much it takes to even take a little bit of that shield off of RBM. That was 30 and the Skytech going in for a very solid amount of time, and just left untouched there is RBM. It's gonna be so hard for EGP to do anything against this AoE team squad. And looks like Darkwing is going to steal that Unbreakable Will again. Chain of Corruption will miss. 30's now in the middle of 3 people. And now Faisal and Fizzy are in onto the back line. That is a beautiful ultimate. RBM will pick up a kill. And 30 is the next target. Skytech not long for this world, as it looks like the rest of EGP will remain under the base. It's a 5v2 with the Nexus towers exposed. And I think AoE might have done it.
And Try's aspects might, his big shockwave isn't enough. Darkwings pops the Unbreakable Will simply to BM underneath the Nexus there. Game number 2 and the series here go to AoE Esports.
What a game coming out from AoE. It was a little bit dicier in the early game. EGP did manage to get a couple of big advantages, notably towards that top side. But at the end of the day, in just the same amount of time, it's going to be AoE sweeping the series against one of their toughest opponents in EGP.
Yeah, and exactly. Inside 27 minutes, once again here, 27-16, the game clock as the game ends. They managed to withstand the early game pressure of Certig. They managed to withstand the early game pressure of Shoryu. And this time, it didn't really feel like it came out of any particular lane. It felt like it came from team cohesion. They found a fight outside their mid-tier 2. It all spanned and turned back around. Remember, when we thought EGP had got inside track on mid lane, AoE just say, great, you've got inside track on mid lane. We've got inside track on the flank with this. Rel comes from one side, Lee Sin comes from another, Diana from another. The fact that you're in mid lane means that you're exposed to so many of these angles, and AoE, they flawlessly collapse. They get an execution so clean in a team fight that it's just so hard for EGP to ever come back, and AoE come out cleanly with a 2-0.
Yeah, and they are in very good position now with that win to potentially go forward in this tournament. Challengers Uprising. They have 2 more games, obviously, against Revival and TSM. And those are still going to be tough games for AoE. Obviously, Revival did take that 3-0 in UPL, but it's very strong showing early on for Area of Effect Esports, as they are going to look to continue their reign of dominance here in the Proving Grounds.
I mean, we talked about how highly prized both of these teams could be coming into tonight and into Challengers Uprising itself. I don't think that there's really a contest to say which one of them, there's no discussion here on tonight to say which team was better. AoE simply were able to play to their strengths better and to mitigate their weaknesses as well. They're able to come away with even gold deficits and still turn the game around, something that you love to see from your top tier teams in AoE, making a statement here in the first night of Cup.
Yeah, and what a quick series it was. Thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. AoE taking a very strong 2-0 victory against Evil Geniuses. And Rude, is there anything you want to say before we close out the show?
Hey, thanks to everybody at home for watching, thanks to the players for playing, and of course to Cup for organising everything, and to the guys at AoE as well for letting me and Grapes take you guys through this wonderful game.
Shout out to Ibram as well, our producer, making everything look pretty for you guys on the stream. And with that, that'll be it. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Hope to see you all again very, very shortly. Make sure to keep watching the rest of the game. There's a lot more going on. And yeah, with all that said and done, have a beautiful night. We'll see you tomorrow.